Dasya Jnananjana Lakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rūpa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rūpam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome back to the Saturday and Sunday series on the teachings of Lord, this is Friday and Saturday. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Rūpa Goswami, which is Rūpa Śikṣā. Rūpa Śikṣā is an extremely important discussion for us as Gaudiya Vaishnavas because we are followers of Rūpa Goswami. And especially Rūpa Śikṣā and Sanatana Śikṣā are foundational and fundamental to our Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And that's why in the Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta, wherever the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are being described chronologically, sequentially, whenever there is a philosophical discussion, Kaviraj Goswami expands it. So here the pastimes have been narrated, and then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu it's Rūpa Goswami, then the discussion, the philosophical discussions, Kaviraj Goswami expands it. Similarly, Sanatana Śikṣā is quite elaborate. In fact, chapters of the Madhya Leela 20, 21, 22, entire 3 chapters is Sanatana Śikṣā. So in the last class, we saw how Vallabhacharya took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his hometown, Adaila Gram. And then, as per his traditional custom, he invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home, did his arti, offered him prasadam, and there Raghupati Upadhyaya came. and there was discussion about Krishna Katha, and the highest philosophical conclusions were discussed between Raghupati Upadhyay and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Both were in ecstasy and dancing. At the same time, so many Brahmanas from this village came and started extending invitations to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Vallabhacharya had seen how Mahaprabhu, while he was taken to a diagram, was in ecstasy, and he had jumped into the Yamuna. He was dancing on the boat. So in order to avoid the Brahmanas who were extending invitations and to avoid the crowd at Prayag, Mahaprabhu took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the path of the Ganges and brought him to Dashashvamedh Ghat. And it is here at Dashashvamedh Ghat that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the teachings to Rūpa Goswami, which is Rūpa Śikṣā, which we are going to begin. So we have been seeing now this section, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy to Rūpa and Sanatana Goswami. We had just read one verse in the last class. Loka bheda bhoye Prabhu dashashvamedh yana Rūpa Goswami Śikṣā karana shakti sancharya. So I'm now going to go more in detail now with this Rūpa Śikṣā. This is the first part. The Rūpa Śikṣā actually begins from verse 136. The actual teachings begin from 136 to 236. But here in these verses from 114 to 134, the first few verses mention how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered Srila Rūpa Goswami. So how he was empowered is being discussed specifically from 115 to 122, and then 133 and 134 and 135. Then how Rūpa Goswami and Sanatan lived in Vrindavan. That is the remaining 123 to 132 in between verses here. So how being empowered, what that empowerment is, and that is exhibited in one's conduct. So what was the conduct of Rūpa and Sanatana Goswami after being empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Verse 136. So 136 onwards is the actual teaching of Rūpa Śikṣā. And then the parting instructions to Rūpa Goswami. What are the last instructions Mahaprabhu gives to Rūpa Goswami? That is from 237 to 243. 243. So these are the subsections in this entire section of Rūpa Śikṣā. We are seeing this one part, first part, 114 to 134. 135 onwards is the actual teaching. So let us go now to this section. Now in the last class, I could not show you this picture of Prayag where the Yamuna, the black waters, seeing this, Mahaprabhu went into ecstasy, remembered Krishna. That was an uddipan for him. And then he immediately jumped into the Yamuna. So this is what had happened. And this is the Yamuna. This portion, the left side is the Yamuna, and this side is the Ganges. So Loka Bheda Bhoy, fearing that the crowds, which is Prayag is situated on the bank of Yamuna, and Mahaprabhu, Vallabhacharya took the boat towards the path of the Ganges, and somewhere this side, where there is no much crowd, is the Dashashvamedh Ghat. Loka bheda bhoy Prabhu Dashashvamedhe yana Rūpa Goswami Śikṣā karana shakti sancharya. So he took him to the Dashashvamedh Ghat. As I was explaining in the last class also, Dashashvamedh Ghat is the ghat where Lord Brahma performed 10 horse sacrifices. So that's why the name is Dashashwamedha Ghat. Now we will now today go into the purport of what Prabhupada is speaking on this verse. Parashya Shaktir Vivide Shuyate. The Supreme Lord has multi-potencies which the Lord bestows on his fortunate devotees. So Prabhupada is speaking about Shakti Sanchara. So there are unlimited potencies of the Lord. So one of the potencies which is required to propagate the Krishna conscious movement, that potency was bestowed to Rūpa Goswami. So that's the point. First, Prabhupada says that there are unlimited potencies. The Lord has a special potency by which he spreads the Krishna conscious movement. So that is a special potency, that special Shakti. This is explained in the Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta Antilila. Kali kalera dharma Krishna nama sankirtan Krishna Shakti vina nahi tara paravartan. One cannot spread the holy name of Krishna. The Kali Yuga dharma is Nam Sankirtan without being specifically empowered by the Lord. Krishna Shakti vina nahi tara pravartan. Because here in the verse it is mentioned, Rūpa Gosaira Śikṣā Karana Shakti Sanchari. The Lord bestowed his Shakti to Rūpa Goswami. He empowered him. And how Rūpa Goswami was empowered is Prabhupada explaining in the purport. Now, what is this Shakti of the Lord? What is this empowerment? A very interesting explanation Prabhupada gives in his purports. Very, very interesting explanation. And we also should know what it means to be empowered by the Lord. Unless we are directly empowered by the Lord, we will not have the potencies to spread the holy names, the Nam Sankirtan. So Prabhupada is now giving the explanation. A devotee who receives this power from the Lord must be considered very fortunate. He is very fortunate who receives this power. The Krishna conscious movement is spreading to enlighten people about their real position, their original relationship with Krishna. One requires Krishna's special power in order to able to do this. People forget their relationship with Krishna and work under the spell of Maya life after life, transmigrating from one body to another. This is the process of material existence. The Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, personally descends to teach people that their position in the material world is a mistaken one. The Lord again comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to induce people to take to Krishna consciousness. The Lord also empowers a special devotee to teach people their constitutional position. Lord himself, when he incarnates, he does this, or he empowers his bona fide representatives to teach their original constitution. And that teaching will begin now very soon in the Rūpa Śikṣā. So Mahaprabhu will himself teach to Rūpa Goswami, and Rūpa Goswami will further what is given in the form of a synopsis, will expand in his works. Krishna Tattva Bhakti Tattva Rasa Tattva Prant Shaba Śikṣā Prabhu Bhagavata Siddhant. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Srila Rūpa Goswami. Shaba Śikṣā Prabhu, the ultimate limit of truth about Lord Krishna. Prant. Prant means the pinnacle or the acme or the summit. The summit of what? Krishna Tattva. The truth about Lord Krishna. Bhakti Tattva. The truth about devotional service. Rasa Tattva. The truth about transcendental mellows, culminating in conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. So Rasa Tattva, that means Shantaras, Dasiras, Vatsalyaras, Sakyaras, Madhuras. So the highest rasas culminating in the Madhur Ras of Radha and Krishna. That's what he thought, Prant. He finally told Rūpa Goswami about the ultimate conclusions of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Siddhant, the conclusions of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So these were all the teachings what Rūpa Goswami was taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here in this verse, summarized in this slide, Prant, the ultimate limit of truth, about what? Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, and Rasa Tattva, and the ultimate conclusions of Srimad Bhagavat, Bhagavata Siddhant, or the Bhagavat Tattva. In fact, the Bhagavat Tattva, if you study the Srimad Bhagavatam, the conclusions of Bhagavatam is that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. This is established right in the beginning of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what is the essence of all scriptures? The essence of all scriptures is devotional service. Save pumsan paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhiti. So the topmost dharma is to perform bhakti. Vasudeva bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojita janiti ashu vairagyam jnanam tad ahetukam. So Bhagavatam also, the conclusions of Krishna Tattva and Bhakti Tattva are there. With respect to Rasa Tattva, yes, in the Bhagavatam, there are various incarnations of the Lord, right from the Purusha avatars in the third canto to Vara avatar, Kapil, Śikṣā, in the fourth canto, in the fifth canto, in the sixth canto, seventh canto, eighth canto, ninth canto, various incarnations of the Lord who are avatars are discussed. And how the devotees, how the Lord reciprocates with his devotees, loving exchanges, what happened with the Lord and his devotees. So, all these incarnations, avatar, have been taught. And in the 10th canto, Krishna Tattva, Lord Krishna, who is the avatari, his incarnation and his exchanges with his devotees, right from Vatsalya, Sakya, Dasya, and ultimately in his Kaishore age, the Madhurya pastimes of Krishna and Vrindavan also. So Rasa Tattva is also taught there. So in that sense, the Bhagavatam also brings out these philosophical truths of Krishna, of Bhakti, and of Rasa. So this is what Mahaprabhu taught. Now, Mahaprabhu also taught these teachings based on what he had heard. Ramananda Pashayata Siddhanta Shunila Rūpe Kripa Karitaha Sabha Sancharila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Rūpa Goswami, Rūpe Kripa Kari. All the conclusions he had heard from Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Pashayata Yata Siddhanta Shunila. And duly empowered him so that he could understand them. Taha Shaba Sancharila. So it's not only important that we hear the philosophical truths, but we meditate upon it and get the clear understanding. The clear understanding is important. And with that understanding, we get the realization. So in the process of education, there are these three phases, they say. Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasan. Shravanam means to hear. Mananam means to contemplate what you have heard. Nididhyasan means to go in deep meditation and realize these truths. Or in some Upanishads or Yoga Sutras, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, it is mentioned Aditi, Bodh, Achara, and Prachar. Aditi means to hear or to read, Adhyan Karna. Bodh means to get an intellectual insight. Bodh, buddhi. From bodh only the word buddhi is there. So to get an intellectual insight of what you have heard, I have heard this, have I understood it? So to understand, you have to use your intelligence. And then I have to now act as per what I have heard. That is acharan. And then there is prachar. So sancharila here, Prabhupada is explaining to understand. So text 1170. Further, Prabhupada is speaking about Shakti Sancharila. Shri Rūpa Hridaya Prabhu Shakti Sancharila Sarva Tattva Nirupane Pravina Karila. By entering the heart of Shri Rūpa Goswami, Shri Rūpa Hridaya, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him to ascertain properly the conclusions of all truths. Prabhu Shakti Sancharila Sarva Tattva Nirupana Pravina. He made him experienced devotee whose decisions correctly agreed with the verdicts of the disciplinic succession. Thus, Rūpa Goswami was personally empowered by Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shakti Sancharila, again Prabhupada is explaining. But this part of the translation, it's very interesting to note. How do we know or how do we understand that there is the Shakti Sanchar which has happened in our heart also? How do we know that? What is the way we can know that Shakti Sancharan has happened? It's not what today out in the world so-called sadhus speak about, that there's an electric current and the spiritual master passes the electric current to the disciple gets surcharged with electric current, and suddenly he manifests some symptoms, and now he's empowered by the guru, and the guru becomes powerless now because all the energy has surcharged the disciple. So this kind of empowerment is all bogus. Prabhupada speaks about it. So what is real Shakti Sancharan? Here Prabhupada is saying, he made him an experienced devotee whose decisions correctly agreed with the verdicts of the disciplined succession. Sarva Tattva Nivarupana Pravina Karila. When you realize the conclusions of the scriptures and act or take decisions in your life at all times, in all walks of your life, you conduct your life, you take decisions in your life based on Shastra. And these decisions are as per Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, as per how previous acharyas have acted upon, as per their decisions and as per what Shastras speak about. That is Shakti Sanchar. That is Shakti Sanchar. So this is the deeper meaning and understanding of what is Shakti Sancharila. Further also in one more verse it will come up. That time we will speak a little more about this Shakti Sanchar. Prabhupada writes a short purport here. The principles of devotional service are only apparently under the jurisdiction of material activity. Devotional activities are the activities of the soul in relationship to the spiritual supreme soul, Bhakti. So although they are conducted in the material realm, although from an external point they look like material activities, but they are actually the activities of the spiritual world. They are not the activities of this material world. So that's why Prabhupada is making this very important point. To be rightly guided, one must be personally guided by Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here Prabhupada is speaking about that Shakti Sancharila. Sarva Tattva Nirupana Pravina Karila. So exactly to follow the previous acharyas, we make decisions in life in line with the previous acharyas, following the previous acharyas who made their decisions following the Shastras, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So this is Shakti Sancharana. That's what Prabhupada is mentioning here. This was the case with Srila Rūpa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and other acharyas. So here Prabhupada is giving that clear hint of what it means, Shakti Sancharila. Now, in this section, what is the mercy or what is the glory of Rūpa Goswami? Rūpa Goswami has been described how he got the mercy of Mahaprabhu. And he has been glorified by other great poets and other acharyas. So that is spoken in few of these verses coming from text 118. Text 118. Shivanand Senara Putra Kavi Karnapurna Rupera Milana Swagrantha Likyachen Prachur. In his book Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta, Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta is a composition by Kavi Karnapurna, who was the son of Shivanand Sen. He was considered as the greatest of the poets in the Gaudiya line, Kavi Karnapurna. In fact, as a child, when Shivanand Sen offered his child to Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu allowed this child to lick his toe. That is the kind of mercy Mahaprabhu bestowed Kavi Karnapurna. And when he was very young, I don't recollect, maybe 5 years or 7 years, he had composed some poetic compositions. He had recited some poetic verses also. So that was Kavi Karnapurna, who has written Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta Natak. So in this book, the son of Shivanand Sen, Kavi Karnapurna, Shivanand Sen Putra, has elaborately described the meeting between Sri Rūpa Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupera Milana Swagrantha Likyachen Prachur. So he has elaborately described this. And there is this glorification. Kalena Vrindavan Kelivarta Lupte Titam Kyapayatum Vishishya Kripamritena Abhishishecha Deva Tatre Rūpam Cha Sanatanam Cha. In the course of time, Kalena, the transcendental news of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan was almost lost. Vrindavana Kelivarta Lupteti. Lupta means it was lost. So, Vrindavana Kelivarta, Keli means actually the loving sweet talks. The loving sweet talks which happen in the Madhuri Ras between Radha and Krishna and the Gopis, and the loving sweet talks in the Vatsalya Ras between Krishna and Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, and the loving talks between Krishna and the Sakhas in Sakhya Ras. All these Keli, the sporting loving pastimes which Krishna performs in Vrindavan, they were all lost. To enunciate explicitly those transcendental pastimes, Kyapayatum Vishishya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered Srila Rūpa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. Deva refers to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rūpam cha Sanatanam cha. With the nectar of his mercy, Kripa Amritena Abhisishecha. Abhisishecha means he sprinkled the mercy. So Rūpa and Sanatan, with the nectar of his mercy, to carry out this work in Vrindavan. Abhisishecha means he sprinkled this mercy to both Rūpa and Sanatan. It is only Rūpa Goswami and Anupa and Mahaprabhu asked about the well-being of Sanatan, and Rūpa Goswami mentioned that he is arrested by the Nawab. And Mahaprabhu said, Dr. is nice. And we see that when both Rūpa and Anambam leave after Śikṣā, then Mahaprabhu meets Sanatana Goswami. So both Rūpa and Sanatana were bestowed this mercy. Srila Prabhupada gives a one-line purport. He says, this verse and the following two verses are from Act 9 of the Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta Natak by Sri Kavi Karnapur. So Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta Natak is a drama composed by Kavi Karnapur, and there he has spoken quite elaborately about how Rūpa Goswami was bestowed mercy by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the next verse is also spoken by Kavi Karnapur in Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta Natak. Let us see that. Yah prag eva priya gune, yah prag eva priya guna guner gad baddopi mukta gehadyasyat rasa iva paro murta evapya murta premalaper dhritadara pravas pariswangarange prayage tam shirupam samam anupen anujagraha deva. From the very beginning, Prag eva, Srila Rūpa Goswami was deeply attracted to the transcendental qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Priya Guna Gunair. Thus he was permanently relieved from family life. Gad Baddopi Mukta Geha Dyasyat. Geha Dyasyat means, Geha means house. So the bondage of family life, he became free from the bondage of family life because of his attraction to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Rūpa Goswami and his younger brother Vallabh were blessed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Rupam Samam Anupamam. Anuja Graha Deva. Anugraha he did for Rupam, and Anupam was his Anuja. Anuja means the younger brother. Deva means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although the Lord was transcendently situated in his transcendental eternal form, Raso Iva Paro Murta Evapi Amurta. He had no material form. He was situated in his pure spiritual form, which is filled with rasa. At Prayage, he told Rūpa Goswami about the transcendental ecstatic love of Krishna. Prem Alaper Dritha Tara. So this Prem Alaper is the same as Vrindavana Keli Varta. Alap means, the conversation, the loving conversations which happen of ecstatic love. The Lord then embraced him very fondly and bestowed all his mercy upon him. Pariswanga Range. So Pariswanga means embrace. With great pleasure he embraced fondly and ultimately bestowed mercy upon him. So this is another verse from the Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta Natak. There is another famous verse which we recited when we were discussing about the Rūpa Goswami's life. Priya Swarupe Daita Swarupe Prema Swarupe Sahajabirupe Nijanurupe Prabhure Karupe Tatan Rupe Swavilasa Rupe. Indeed, Srila Rūpa Goswami, whose dear friend was Sarup Damodar, Priya Swarupe. Priya means dear. Daita Swarupe. Daita refers to, first Priya Swarupe means he was very dear to Sarup Damodar. Daita Swarupe means he was very, very dear to the Lord. Daita means lover or one who is very dear. Was the exact replica of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prema Swarupe. And he was very, very dear to the Lord. Again, Priya is being elaborated by Srila Prabhupada. Because he was the embodiment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, Prema Swarupe, Rūpa Goswami was naturally very beautiful. Sahaja Abhi Rupe. So if you remember, real beauty is when the soul possesses love for Krishna. And when somebody has that love, that external beauty doesn't matter. Because with that love which is possessed in the heart of that jiva, he can attract others. Mahaprabhu was Prema Sarup. He was the embodiment of the love of Mahaprabhu, and he was naturally also beautiful because he possessed love in his heart, and externally also he was very beautiful. Nijanurupe. He very carefully followed the principles enunciated by the Lord. That is Anurup. Anurup means to follow. And he was a competent person to explain properly the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Tatanurupe. Tatan means to compose literatures to explain the pastimes of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expanded his mercy to Rūpa Goswami, Prabhu Eka Rupe, just so that he could render service by writing transcendental literatures. Tatanurupe Swavilas. Swavilas refers to explaining. Vilas means pastimes of the Lord. So he was competent person to explain properly the pastimes of the Lord. So this is a very famous verse and very sweet verse Kavi-Karampur has composed in glorification of Rūpa Goswami. Priya Swarupe Dhaita Swarupe Prema Swarupe Sahaja Virupe Nijanurupe Prabhureka Rupe Tatanurupe Swavilasa Rupe. Eimata Karnapurn Like Stane Stane Prabhu Kripa Kaila Yache Rūpa Sanatane. The characteristics of Rūpa Goswami have thus been described in various places by the poet Kavi Karnapur. Eimata, like this, Karnapur, Like Stane Stane, he has mentioned in various places. An account has also been given of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his causeless mercy upon Srila Rūpa Goswami and Sanatana. Prabhu Kripa Kaila Yache Rūpa Sanatane. So how the Lord bestowed his causeless mercy on both Rūpa and Sanatan also has been given. Mahaprabhu Yata Bada Bada Bhakta Matra Rūpa Sanatan Sabara Kripa Gaurava Patra. So Kavi Karampur has described how Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy on Rūpa and Sanatan. Not only that, all the great exalted devotees also blessed Rūpa and Sanatan. Rūpa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami were the objects of love and honor. Rūpa Sanatan Shabara Kripa Gaurav Patra for all the great stalwart devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu Yata Bada Bada Bhakta Matra. So the great exalted devotees like Ramanand Rai, Haridas Thakur, all these personalities also had bestowed their mercy on Rūpa and Sadarsan. So now the next part of the verses speak about, as I mentioned in the section, if you were in the beginning, we mentioned how Rūpa and Sanatan lived in Vrindavan. The mercy and empowerment is what we discussed up till 122, but 123, how they lived in Vrindavan. 123 to 132, that is the discussion. So let us now see how they lived in Vrindavan after getting this mercy. Keha yadi deshayaya deki Vrindavan Tandra Prashna Karena Prabhura Parshadgan. If someone returned to his country after seeing Vrindavan, Keha yadi deshayaya, they come back to their hometown, deki Vrindavan, after visiting Vrindavan, the associates of the Lord would ask him questions. Tandra Prashna Karena Prabhura Parshadgan. The eternal associates of the Lord would ask questions. What questions they would ask? Kya tahan keche rahe Rūpa Sanatan, keche rahe keche vairag, keche bhojan. They would ask those returning from Vrindavan, how are Rūpa and Sanatan doing in Vrindavan? Tahan kaiche rahe Rup Sanatan. How are Rup and Sanatan staying in Vrindavan? What are their activities in the renounced order? Kaiche Vairagya. How do they manage to eat? Kaiche Bhojan. These were the questions they asked. So these are the questions the eternal associates would ask. Kaiche Ashtaprahar Karena Shri Krishna Bhajan Tabe Prashamsiya Kahe Sei Bhaktagan. The Lord's associate would also ask, how is that Rupa and Sanatan are engaged in devotional service 24 hours daily? Ashtaprahar Kare Shri Krishna Bhajan Kaiche. How they are engaged 24 hours. So this is the second aspect of Shakti Sanchar. When one engages in devotional service 24 hours, then one is empowered. So Prabhupada is going to speak about that in one of his purports, coming purports. At that time, the person who had returned from Vrindavan would praise Srila Rūpa and Sanatan Goswami. Tabe prashamshya kahe she bhaktagan. So they would praise and start narrating. Aniketa dune vane yata vrikshagan eka eka vrikshera tale eka ekri ratri shayan. The brothers actually had no fixed residence. Aniket. Aniket means Niketan. Niketan means the place where you reside, Nivas, or the Alaya, the house. But they were Aniket. They both, Duni, their brothers had no fixed residence. They reside beneath trees. One night under one tree and next night under another. So this is the sign of detachment. Even if you are residing in one place for some time, you become attached to it. So this is the highest level of renouncement they had, that they used to change their residence every day so that they don't become attached. Now we can imagine whether it is brahmacharis or the grahasthas who are residing in the same place. And if we are, we become attached. That is how the conditioning can happen. So we should be very careful about it, and we should observe and introspect. That is why the sannyasis are always traveling from one place to another place preaching. Prabhupada practically had great buildings, palatial bungalows in the Western countries. But Prabhupada said, I cannot stay and reside here because I have to preach. Prabhupada was constantly moving. So that was their level of detachment. Vipragrahe stula bhiksha kahan madhukari Śikṣā ruti chana chiva bhojan parihari. Shri Rūpa and Sanatan begged a little food from the houses of Brahmanas. Vipragrahe stula bhiksha, little. And they used to do this madhukari. So madhukari means, madhu means just like a bee goes from one flower to another flower and collects nectar. Similarly, the madhukari means those who are in the renounced order of life, they are called as bhikshukas. They collect food from different places, from the Brahmanas' houses. Again, it is a sign of detachment. If you are attached to only collecting from one place, then you can become attached also. So that's why they collect from different places. So this is the highest principles in the renounced order of life, which Rūpa and Sanatan were following. Giving up all kinds of material enjoyment, bhoga parihari. They take only some dry bread and fried chickpeas. Śikṣā ruti chana chivai. Now none of us can follow this high standards what Rūpa and Sanatan had, that they used to just eat dry bread and some fried chickpeas. Very exalted. Karanya matra hate kanta chinda bahirvas Krishna kata Krishnam nirantar ullas. They carry only water pots. Karanya matra hate. They wear torn quilts. Kante Chinda Bahirvas. They always chant the holy names of Krishna and discuss Krishna Katha Krishnam Nirantarulas. In great jubilation, they also dance. Ashtaprahara Krishna Bhajana Chari Danda Shayane Nama Sankirtan Seha Nahi Kono Dine. They engage almost 24 hours daily in rendering service to the Lord. Ashtaprahar. One prahar is 3 hours. Ashtaprahar means 8 into 3, that is 24 hours. Krishna Bhajan. Chari Danda Shayan. They sleep only an hour and a half. So you can imagine. So Prabhupada mentions one danda is equal to 24 minutes. So there's the calculation of time which is done in the 3rd canto. So one danda refers to almost 24 minutes, almost half an hour you can say. So chari danda refers to 1.5 hours. So that's why Prabhupada is saying 1.5 hours. When they continuously chant the holy names, they do not sleep at all. Namak Sankirtan Seha Nahi Kono Dine. So sometimes they used to forget to sleep because of continuous chanting. So this is the standard required for to be empowered by the Lord. Shakti Sancharina. And one who attains the stage of Bhava Bhakti, because Bhava Bhakti is bestowed by the Lord. At Asakti, when one reaches the stage of Asakti, he's coming to the end of his sadhana bhakti, especially Raganuga sadhana bhakti, and the Lord bestows his mercy when his two potencies, the Samvit Shakti and the Ladini Shakti, enter the heart. From the spiritual realm, these two potencies enter the heart, and these two potencies together form what is called as the Bhakti Shakti. This happens at the stage of Bhava, when the Lord bestows Bhava on that devotee. And at Bhava Bhakti, one can say that the Lord has bestowed his Shakti. That's why Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Pravartan. So only when somebody is bestowed this kind of Shakti, he can do the transformation of making others into devotees. And this happens at the stage of Bhava. And one of the symptoms, there are 9 characteristics of Bhava Bhakti. Anyone can tell us what is the first characteristic of Bhava Bhakti? Anyone knows? Can raise their hands. What is the first characteristic of Bhava Bhakti? What is one of the first characteristics of Bhava Bhakti? There are many characteristics, but what is the first characteristic of Bhava Bhakti? Does anyone know? There are 9 characteristics of Bhava Bhakti by which you can realize that somebody has attained Bhava. And what is the first characteristic of Bhava Bhakti? Anyone? Okay, there is one hand which has been raised. Satyavrat Chetan Prabhu. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, anxious to utilize time in always in service of the Lord.
Pardon? Can you repeat once again?
He is always anxious to spend the time in the service of the Lord.
Okay. And then?
He does not like to be idle.
Yes, that is called as avyartha kalatvam. Not even a moment he will waste. Not even a moment he will waste. Yes, Vikram Singh Prabhuji, you want to say something?
It's Shanti.
Yeah, that is Shanti. That's one of the first qualities. Yeah. Sunita Mataji, you want to say something?
Prabhuji, Namaruchi.
Namaruchi. Yeah, Namaruchi is also one quality. Namagana Sadaruchi. Pavan Bal Govind Prabhuji, yes.
Yeah, I was trying to say the same thing. Namagana Sadaruchi.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm just showing you the slide. Reliable qualities of a person who has developed Bhava Bhakti. Shantir avyakt kalatvam. Viraktir man shunyata. Asha bandha samutkanta. Namagane sadaruchi. Asakti stad gunakhyane. Priti stad vasati sale. So these are the 9 characteristics by which you can understand that one has Bhava Bhakti. Not wasting time. Shanti. And avyartha kalatvam. Avyartha kalatvam is one symptom externally you can see in a devotee which can be a defining characteristic of one who is Bhava Bhakta. Not even a moment he will waste without engaging in Krishna consciousness. This is 24 hours. This is what is being spoken here, 24 hours. Kabu bhakti rasta shastra kare alikhan. Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta shune kare Chaitanya Chintan. Sometimes they write transcendental literatures about devotional service. Bhakti rasa shastra kare likhan. And sometimes they hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta shune. And spend that time thinking about the Lord. Kare Chaitanya Chintan. So that's how the thoughts are completely absorbed in Krishna, in composing literatures, in hearing, and then in contemplating. Ekata shuni mahantara mahashuka hoy Chaitanyara kripayana tane ki vismay. When the personal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would hear of the activities of Rūpa and Sanatana Goswami, they would say, what is wonderful for a person who has been granted the Lord's mercy. He can do wonderful activities. Now here Prabhupada in this purport elaborates. Now he summarizes all the verses which were spoken and he gives a commentary. Shri Rūpa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami had no fixed residence. So Prabhupada is speaking about, in the previous verse it was mentioned, Aniket. Aniket was suggested in the previous few verses back. That is verse number 127. So Prabhupada is speaking purport of that. No fixed resident. They stayed beneath the tree for one day only and wrote huge volumes of transcendental literature. So Prabhupada is speaking about the previous verses also. It is mentioned here. It is mentioned here. Kabu Bhakti Shastra Parena Likhan. They not only wrote books, but chanted, danced, discussed Krishna, and remembered Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Thus, they executed devotional service. In Vrindavan, there are Prakat Sahajiyas who say that writing books or even touching books is taboo. It is forbidden. It is not to be done. For them, devotional service means being relieved from these activities. Whenever they are asked to hear a recitation of Vedic literature, they refuse, saying, what business do we have reading or hearing transcendental literatures? They are meant for devoids. They pose themselves as too elevated to exert energy for reading, writing, and hearing. However, pure devotees under the guidance of Srila Rūpa Goswami reject this Sahajiya philosophy. It is certainly not good to write literature for money or reputation, but to write books and publish them for the enlightenment of the general populace is real service to the Lord. So it doesn't mean that only advanced devotees can do writing. Prabhupada recommended even devotees who are beginning spiritual life, whatever they have read or heard, they can, write their own reflections for their own purification. They can do that for their own purification. So that is also recommended. And especially writing should not be done for money or reputation, but it is meant for enlightenment. That was Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's opinion. And he specifically told his disciples to write books. He actually preferred to publish books rather than to establish temples. Temple construction is meant for general populace and neophyte devotees. So Prabhupada is mentioning temple construction is meant generally to attract people so that people can come and they can hear about Krishna. And it is meant for neophyte devotees or the Kanishta Adhikaris who do the Archa Vigra Seva. But the business of an advanced and an empowered devotees is to write books, publish them and distribute them widely. So the business of an advanced and empowered devotee is to write, publish and distribute. According to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, distributing literature is like playing a great mridanga, brahad mridanga. Consequently, we always request members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to publish as many books as possible and distribute them widely throughout the world. So Prabhupada is giving a direct order here that advanced devotees who are the members of Krishna Consciousness should write books and widely distribute them. By thus following in the footsteps of Srila Rūpa Goswami, one can become a Rūpanuga devotee. So in this way, if we do, then we are following in the footsteps of Rūpa Goswami. Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta Rūp Liki Achen Apane Rasamrita Sindhu Grantera Mangalacharane. Shri Rūpa Goswami has personally spoken about the mercy of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta Rūp Liki Achane Apane. Rūpa Goswami himself has spoken about his mercy bestowed by Mahaprabhu. Where? In his auspicious introduction to his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Rasamrita Sindhu Grantha Mangalacharan. So in the Mangalacharan, Rūpa Goswami has spoken how he was bestowed mercy by Mahaprabhu. So this is a very famous verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Hridiyasya prernaya pravrittoham varakarupopi tasya hare padakamalam bhande chaitanya devasya. Although I am the lowest of men, varaka rupopi, this is out of his humility speaking, and I have no knowledge. The inspiration to write transcendental literatures about devotional service has been mercifully bestowed upon me. Hridiyasya preraya pravrittoham. The inspiration has come to me from the Lord himself. Hridayasya, Hridaya Bhakti, Shri Rūpa Hridayara Shakti Sancharila. So this is what Rūpa Goswami is narrating. Therefore, I am offering my obeisances unto the lotus feet of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tasya Vande Chaitanya Devasya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has given me the chance to write these books. Tasya Hare Padakamalam Vande Chaitanya Devasya. So this is how he was bestowed mercy. Now, the next part is Lord Chaitanya's teaching to Srila Rūpa Goswami. Actual Rūpa Śikṣā will begin from verse 135. This we will see tomorrow. Tomorrow we will begin now the Rūpa Śikṣā more elaborately, verse by verse. In that subsections also we will be discussing. Any questions, any clarification anyone has? Up till now, we only discussed how Rūpa Goswami was bestowed mercy by Mahaprabhu, both Rūpa and Sanatan, and how Kavi Karnapurn in his compositions has spoken the mercy Mahaprabhu bestowed upon Rūpa and Sanatan. And when the associates of the Lord used to visit Vrindavan and return back to their hometown, the eternal associates, the Parshad, used to ask about Rūpa and Sanatan. That mercy which was bestowed by Mahaprabhu was seen in the conduct of Rūpa and Sanatan, how they were constantly 24 hours engaged in Krishna Kirtan, Krishna Chintan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Chintan, Chaitanya Leela Katha, and in composing Bhakti Rasa Shastra. So after mentioning about this mercy, then Rupa Śikṣā will now begin from verse 135 onwards, which we will see tomorrow. Anyone has any questions or clarifications? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, what is that thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so attracted to Rūpa Goswami, and among all the Goswami, he chosen Rūpa Goswami? Means how Rūpa Goswami got so much mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Among the 6 Goswamis, Rupa Goswami is the leader of the 6 Goswamis. And why Rupa Goswami is considered as a leader of among the 6 Goswamis, although Sanatana Goswami is the elder brother of Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami considered Sanatana Goswami as his spiritual master. But still, we are Rupanugas, we are followers of Rupa Goswami. What is the reason for this? The reason for this is that Rupa Goswami is Rasik Acharya. He is Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world. And Radha and Krishna are assisted by the Ashtasakis. The Ashtasakis, Lalita, Vishaka Saki and all. And the Manjaris assist the Sakis. And Rupa Manjari is the assistant of Lalita Saki. And he is the leader. Rupa Manjari or Rupa Goswami is the leader. And the most intimate pastimes which Radha and Krishna perform, the Sakis are, they are little more elder in age. Even they are not given entrance to serve Radha and Krishna when they perform these most intimate pastimes. The Manjaris, who are a little younger in age, they are around 12, 13 years old. The Manjaris are, they are able to witness these pastimes and able to serve Radha Krishna in these pastimes. And Rup Manjari is that leader. So in that sense, the youth leader means the group leader is Rupa Goswami. And all the other Manjaris, they serve under the group leader who is Rupa Goswami. And that's why everyone is a follower of Rupa Goswami. Be the other Goswamis among the 6 Goswamis. Jiva Goswami considers Rupa Goswami as his spiritual master. That's Gopal Bhatt Goswami. The other Acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti, he actually wrote commentaries on Rupa Goswami's work. Narottam Das Thakur, he wrote songs. Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. Every aspiration of all these eternal associates who are Acharyas in the Guru Shish Parampara is to be under Rupa Goswami, because Rupa Goswami is the leader there. So this is the first understanding we should have. And Sanatana Goswami, although he is the Sambandha Acharya, Rupa Goswami is the Abhideya Acharya. How to perform devotional service. So the Sambandha deity is Radha Madan Mohan. Madan Mohan is the attracting deity by which our heart is attracted to Madan Mohan. But Govindev is the deity which gives knowledge, or where we act in devotional service. And Rupa Goswami is the Abhideya Acharya. So the cricket field, the stadium, the field is very important. We all who are lovers of cricket, we would like to go to the stadium to see the cricket match. So the field is like that Sambandha. Sambandha Acharya is Sanatana Goswami. He creates the field. But if you go to the cricket stadium and there is a field, there are the batsmen, but there is no cricket match happening where there is bat and ball being played. The bowler is throwing the ball and the batsman is hitting. Unless there are activities, there is no rasa there in the cricket stadium. Similarly, the field is created by Sanatana Goswami in the form of Sambandhacharya, where he attracts us to Madan Mohan. But Govindev is the actions of devotional service. So, what is happening in the field is devotional activities. So, how to perform devotional service is taught by Rūpa Goswami, who is our Abhideya Acharya. And that is why Rūpa Goswami, although the field is important, but the activities in the field are more important. Although the cricket stadium is important, but the cricket match happening there is most important, which gives us rasa. There is engagement. The batsman and the bowler are engaged. The audience are also engaged. They are laughing. They are going through all these emotions. So actions in devotional service, that is Abhideya, is taught by Rūpa Goswami. Ultimately, there is also the Prayojan. The Prayojan Acharya is Raghunath Das Goswami, where there is the deity is Gopinath, who performs the pastimes of Ras Leela, where we ultimately that is the goal. But that is the goal which is going to come. Ultimately, when you do the Abhideya, then the Prayojan will be attained. So like that, we have to see each of these acharyas have their role, but Rūpa Goswami is prominent, and Rūpa Goswami being the leader of the Goswamis and being the Rasik Acharya who actually witnesses these pastimes, and he being the leader, everyone is following in the footsteps of Rūpa Goswami. That is how we need to understand. I hope it is clear, Mataji.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yeah. Any other questions anyone has? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rūpa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Chaitanya-Caritāmṛta ki jai. Hare Krishna.